What if you are lying on an operation table? The doctors knocked you out with anesthesia. You can't move, you can't respond, you don't perceive pain, just nothing. And also, you can't remember anything when you get conscious. But what if during the surgery, under the influence of anesthesia, a part of your brain, a tiny part of you, is still listening? It sounds like a sci fi movie, right? Or maybe a Bollywood movie's general plot. The heroine gets into a coma, she's like unconscious, or maybe due to a surgery, she's under anesthesia. The hero confesses his love, and the heroine just listens everything and gets back to him, say I love you and stuff. What if that was like real? What if it made sense? The researchers have the answers to this. Welcome to BioBytes. Today we are going to deep dive into the unconscious brain. It's gonna be an interesting one. Before we get to the crazy experimentation part, let's quickly understand how anesthesia works, because that will make this study and this finding much more surprising. So, general anesthesia is actually a mix of lot of drugs, and in this case, it is propofol. So, basically, it tells the entirety of your nervous system to shut down. You can't respond, you're not conscious, you can't feel pain, you don't have any memory at all. When propofol enters the bloodstream via an IV, it makes its way directly to the brain. But it doesn't just mimic the brain's main calming neurotransmitter, GABA, it acts as a positive allosteric modulator. Instead of taking GABA's place, propofol binds to its own separate site on the GABA receptor, acting as an amplifier for the GABA that's already there. This forces the chloride channel to stay open much longer, flooding the neuron with negative chloride ions. The result, profound electrical inhibition, leading straight to the anesthetic state. For decades, scientists assume that this is kind of a standby zone, just like your laptop sleeping. Nothing surprising is happening. Well, they had their suspicion because they thought that something might be going on in that hyperactive brain, right? Because in the past few studies, when there was brain activity recorded during anesthesia, under the effect of anesthesia, it was seen that the activity is quite comparative to normal, or what was expected, and the researchers at that time couldn't find out as to what exact part is still working, or why is it working, or what kind of information is it processing. The researchers focused on a very particular part of the brain, which is the hippocampus. Hippocampus is basically your brain's filing system. It is the charge of keeping memories to help you navigate through newer information or older information. And it looks like a seahorse actually. So basically where it comes from, because hippo is horse and campus is a sea monster. Let's come to the experimentation part. How did they actually do it? So basically, they took 7 patients of epilepsy, which were going to go under brain surgery, and they fully agreed on participating in this study. So during their brain surgery, the researchers put neuropixels, a kind of electrodes specifically designed for brain, and they were put deep into the hippocampus region of the brain. Now, neuropixels are incredibly precise. They detect the firing of individual neurons, not just, oh, something is happening in this region. They can actually pick out single brain cells and go like, that specific neuron there right now is firing, and this has never been used in the hippocampus before, so this study was a first. There were basically 2 experiments. The experiment 1 was that they played a series of same repeated tone, boring I know, like, but standard, beep beep beep, but every now and then they would sneak in a different tone, what researchers called an oddball. Then they found that neurons in the hippocampus spiked when the oddball played. The brain noticed. Even more wild, the brain got better at detecting the odd sounds over time, like it was learning while unconscious. Experiment 2 was that they played clips from educational videos and podcasts, like real spoken language. And the hippocampus didn't just respond to the sounds, it was actively sorting through the grammar, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and here's the truly jaw dropping part. The brain was predicting the next word in the sentence. You know, like the autocomplete on your phone, where it guesses what you're about to like type. That's essentially what the brain was doing. While the patient was completely knocked out, scientists call this predictive coding. And it's something we thought only happened when you're wide awake and actually paying attention. Okay, so like, why should you be interested, right? Let me break it down into 3 reasons why this study is just mind blowing. One is that it tells consciousness is not equal to brain processing. We've always assumed that brain interprets information, knowledge, language, and a very complex information while it's like aware, awake, and well, it's not true. It might process these complex and very complicated or new information while being unconscious, subconscious, or maybe different parts of consciousness actually is responsible for different complex processing, and that is something we don't know now, but the study opens a gateway to a question like this. Two is that this opens a new avenue about study for sleep, coma, and brain damage. Because in the study, we know that the patients are under the propofol effect. But what about people in coma? What about people who experienced brain damage and we think that a part of their brain is offline or inactive, but it's secretly processing information? What if patients in coma actually are making partial memory, are able to hear and are able to, consciously process the information that has been going around them? Well, they can't respond, but their brain is responding. So yeah, this study actually also makes us question about everything related to these things. 3 is that this opens new conversation about the treatment for people who have undergone brain injuries or strokes. So like in this study, we know that the brain is unconsciously processing information. What if we can use this as a tool to talk to those parts of the brain and to actually make them more active and respond to our signal and like help them rewire or undergo neuroplasticity? We're not there yet, but this is a starting point, right? The brain is more complex and more capable than we give it credit for. And even being in unconscious state, it wants to make sense of the world around it. And if you want to make more sense about the world and this study, you can read this research paper published in Journal in June 2026 and know more about it. I'll put the link in the description for you guys. Bye.